All right, I got Mario here, which is just a picture box. Let's try to make this guy move with some key presses. So if you want to do anything with key presses, just like last video, we click on our form, and for the most part, we add a key down event. Now we have to make an if statement to check which key code we're interested in coding for. So if I'm going to do movements, let's try to make this guy move to the right. So maybe I will use the WASD and I'll use D for movement. So if I press D on my keyboard, whatever code I write here is good to go. So how do I make him move? Well, if I look at my design, if I look at this picture box, one of the properties it has is it has a location. And this location is an XY coordinate, and it's the location within the form, the parent of this picture box. So this XY works like it would in a math class, except it's just a little bit different. If I put him in the top left corner, you'll notice his X and Y is 0, 0. So that's how movement works when you're coding. The very top right of your, or the top left, sorry, is your 0, 0 point. So if you wanted to go to the right, well, I know that right is a horizontal direction. It's an X direction. So if we went this way, we'd actually be increasing our X value, just like an XY axis, right? If you go to the right, you would be increasing your X axis or your X value. So for example, your X value in the top left is 0. And if you went all the way over here, maybe it was like 500 or something. The only weird part is your Y direction. So your vertical direction starts at 0, right? But the farther you go down, the more that Y value actually increases. So maybe it's like 300 here. So basically all you need to know is the top left of your form, basically you push it to the right by increasing your X, and you push it down by increasing your Y value. So I'm going to put Mario back here in the center. I'm going to go back to my code. And that location property, if I want to move Mario, I have to play around with this location property. So I could use my PCB Mario and I could change its location. And Visual Studio is already trying to help me out here. So if I want to change its location, I have to make a new point. And this is where I can define an X and Y value. So for example, if I said 0, 0, where is that going to put him? Well, we just talked about 0, 0, the origin being in the very top left. So if I run my program and I press my D key, he goes to 0, 0, the origin, the very top left. Now this will always put him at the origin, 0, 0. That's not really good movement to just slap him here. I mean, you may want to do that eventually, or at some point in your code. But I want to move him like from where he is right now. I want to move him to the left, or I guess in this case, I want to move him to the right. So I can't just say like, I can't just put a hard number in there because his location is always changing. So what I mean by this is, okay, I'm moving him to the right, correct? So I don't want to change his Y value, but I need to enter some type of Y value. I can't just leave it blank. So what I could do is I could say PCB Mario dot location dot Y. This moves Mario in the Y direction. It moves him to where his current Y location is. So in other words, it's not going to move him in the Y direction because he has a Y location, right? His Y location right now is 146. So if I take his current Y location, which is 146, it's not going to move him in the Y direction at all. It's going to keep him where he is. Similarly, I could move him in the X direction by taking his location and taking his X coordinate. So this moves him to a new point where he's currently located in the X direction and he's currently located in the Y direction. So if I run this program and I press D, nothing happens because I'm literally creating a new point with his current X and his current Y location. So how do I start to move him now? Well, if I take his current X location and I increase it by 2, for example, I increase it. Remember what it means to increase in X direction. If we increase the X direction, he starts going this way. And eventually he'll hit 500 or whatever it may be. So with that +2 on the X coordinate, it doesn't matter where he is, he's going to move 2 more units each time I press D. And of course I can hold down the keypad there. And it won't matter if he started over here, I can put him right there. The code will know that, okay, we're taking his current position and we're going to start to move him to the right. And that is a very, not basic, because I'm not saying it's easy to understand, but that is in simple terms how you would create movement for an object in programming in general.